Welcome to Peter and Ruffy's Football Show here on STV. The main talking points on tonight's programme. Sir Alex Ferguson believes Scotland can go to Wembley and defeat England. They're going to have to do it without Robert Snodgrass. He's out for 4 weeks with ankle ligament damage. And the SPFL have confirmed that there will be a 50-50 split in the ticket allocation for the League Cup final next month between Celtic and Aberdeen. That's just a few of the topics Alan Ruff will be discussing with me, Peter Martin, on tonight's show. We've got lots to get through, would you believe? We'll be hearing, Ruffy, from Sir Alex Ferguson, Graham Souness, Alan Archibald, Matt McGee. It's absolutely packed on tonight's programme. So let's first of all cut to the chase. Sir Alex Ferguson was talking this morning at the launch of Glasgow as a host city for Euro 2020, and he believes Scotland can get their World Cup qualifying campaign back on track with a win at Wembley.
I think they have to win it, yeah, but that's not a problem. I mean, they can win it. If you go back to the European Championship a few years ago, went down there very, very unlucky. At the last minute, I think it was Daly had the header saved by Seaman, was it? Fantastic. No, they'll do well, Scotland. They'll be fine.
I feel reassured now, Ruffy, do you?
Well, I feel reassured if he thinks it. You know, obviously we've all got to believe that it can happen. But in the evidence of what we've saw recently, it's going to be a hard one. I think if we got a draw, it would be something to hang on to. But in the evidence, I know Sir Alec went back quite far there to the last game. We were beaten at Wembley the last time, and I have to say, well beaten at Parkhead. So unless Sir Alex knows something that we don't know, then we'll just have to believe everything he says.
Yeah, absolutely. We did win at Wembley. It was 1-0. It just wasn't enough in the end.
That's true.
But the other thing...
Is the gap closing?
No, let's not talk about gaps for the moment anyway. I can't believe we're heading into... We'll get to Wednesday or Thursday and the gap will still be on the agenda. We're going to talk about that in a minute. What I'm going to talk about now is a blow. And the blow is Robert Snodgrass is out of the game with ankle ligament damage. He's out for Hull and Scotland. 4 weeks. He's going to miss that game at Wembley.
On a personal note, it's a bad one for Robert himself, you know, after the long-term injury that he had, and then to get this as well, which will keep him out for a while. From our point of view, it's a massive blow, you know, in light of the young boy Robertson going to be out as well, and that's Snodgrass. So Gordon's certainly going to have to dig deep to get something out of the players for this game coming up, but they too are big misses.
Yep, absolutely. Major blow there. Let's move on to, of course, there are some interesting games coming up over the next 24 hours. But Graham Souness was in town. I think he will be speaking with Joe Jordan at an event, taking some questions from the audience. But he was talking, obviously, about the Rangers situation. You know, I'm amazed, but Graham hasn't moved from his position. I think he's looking for someone, not only Dave King, but maybe someone else to start putting, a fair amount of money into Rangers to try and bridge that gap that you were alluding to earlier on.
Well, Celtic had the best part of 5 years to create a gap between themselves and Rangers. That's not to say that it'll take 5 years for Rangers to catch them. In the next few transfer windows, Rangers could buy really well and get lucky with them and catch them very quickly. But you have to say, as a Rangers supporter, you have to accept that they're a bit ahead right now. The owner has to find money for the manager. I think the manager's done a fabulous job to date. And I think it doesn't matter who you got in. There's no such thing as a super coach out there. It's about super players, and that's what makes the difference. You know, you can be the best coach, the most imaginative coach, the most experienced coach, but you ain't going to change Rangers' situation right now. It's about getting better players.
Yep, getting better players needs money, Ruffy. And again, unless Dave King comes up with the cash, Rangers are just going to have to go on with what they've got and maybe get the odd one or two in while shipping some out. I mean, there was a little suggestion over the course of the last 24 hours that maybe, he hasn't ruled it out, Sean Dyche taking Joey Barton back to Burnley in the January transfer window.
Yeah, I think something has to happen. I think Graham's just saying things that the supporters want to hear as well. You know, I think the supporters have done everything. You know, they've put their season ticket money in there, and I think obviously from the outside looking in, that looks as if what Rangers have been using the supporters' money. But the supporters want to know if the promises are going to be made. They were told there was a £30 million war chest, and it's okay, Mark Warburton saying, no, we don't want to be throwing away money needlessly, but with the players he's brought in, if he was given 30 million, you would like to think he would use it wisely. He's not going to chip it all over the place. So I think the supporters actually really need to know now, is there money there? I mean, if they come out and say, no, we don't have 30 million to splash, this is the way we have to go for 2 or 3 years, the supporters will buy into that. But I think they really need to know now, is there money available?
If anything, what buys you time, Ruffy, is winning games, winning key games. I mean, someone mentioned to me over the last few days since the defeat to Celtic, you know, it's big games that they need to win. You know, lost to Celtic, lost 2-1 up at Aberdeen, albeit with a wonder goal in the last seconds of the game, lost 5-1 to Celtic. You know, and last season, you know, not a lot was made of the fact that they lost the big game, which was the cup final to Hibernian as well as obviously some games throughout the season that were viewed as big games at the time. 2 to Falkirk, lost to Hibs at Easter Road as well, lost to St Johnstone in the League Cup. I think if you win the big key games, then it kind of takes away the criticism, and I think that's what Rangers fans are looking to see from Mark Warburton and his side.
Yeah, and exactly what you're saying there. If Rangers had won 1-0 at the weekend, we wouldn't have been looking at all these stats that you've thrown up there in the games. And that's the way football is. And the manager will know himself that there is only so long that the supporters will buy into what he's saying. I think a lot of the things he's saying are quite straightforward. You know, you can see the players that he's brought in. Most of them have been on freeze. You know, that means his hands are tied financially, so he's wheeling and dealing. But Rangers supporters are like any other supporters. They don't want to get beat by their biggest rivals. They don't want to continuously get beat by their closest rivals. And they'll want to see some changes. He's got 2 home games coming up. I'm sure they probably will win the 2 of them, and that'll sort of have people backing off for a wee while. But as soon as the next game comes up, the next big game comes up, if they don't win it, then the supporters will be unhappy again.
Yeah, it's funny you saying that. I mean, we'll hear from Mark Warburton, obviously, in the suggestion of splashing the cash. But obviously, you know, he goes on to talk about the job he has to focus on with the players he has available.
You have to respect his opinion, absolutely. But it's a game of opinions. And as I say, it's there's a financial gap that exists at this moment in time. That's clear for everyone to see. And I've read some ludicrous comments this morning about my City background should make me aware of what the power of the financial muscle. I'm not a rocket scientist, but I'm not a fool. As I say, such comments are ludicrous. Of course, we recognise the implications of a rival club with stronger financial base at this moment in time. The worst thing Rangers could do is spend recklessly to try and close that gap too quickly. We know the gap is there. That's important. That's very important to know the gap is there. What's also important is the dialogue and communication within the club and the target setting to know what we have to do in what time frame to close that gap. But as I say, the worst thing we could do is not build strong foundations here. And from the chairman and the board down, the club is very, very clear what it has to do.
Yeah, you see, Mark Warburton obviously has to go with what, you know, the players that he's recruited. The problem is, Ruffy, some of them are not playing. You know, there are buys that just haven't worked out for them. He's been unlucky with Kranjčar's injury, but Senderos on the bench, another man, Barton, the big fallout. Other key players, O'Halloran, there are key players that have been recruited that are not playing and not contributing.
No, and most of the ones you mentioned are stopgap players. There is no investment there. There's no money to recoup from the players that you've just mentioned there. And I don't think if he was given 30 million, he would spend it recklessly. You don't have to go out and splash it all right away.
I mean, let's be honest about it, Ruffy. I don't know where you're getting the 30 million that's going to be for players. It's just not going to happen. You're not going to spend 30 million in players. That's an act of lunacy.
But that's what I'm saying. He doesn't have to. He can take the 30 million if there is 30 million.
Well, there's not 30 million for players. Come on. Do you honestly believe that?
Well, a lot of the Rangers supporters do believe that.
How many Rangers fans are actually looking and saying, "You said 30 million, get 30 million over to him and spend it"? Not a chance.
Okay, then, what has he got? Has he got 20 million?
Well, I think there needs to be a substantial amount of money, but not 30 million. That's lunacy.
No, I'm not talking about spending 30 million. I'm just shown the supporters that they can believe in the owner who told them what they had.
Yeah.
He doesn't have to go and spend it. He can keep it. He can use it whenever he's going to use it till January anyway.
Here's a point. Do you think they can win in the big test coming up against Hearts at the end of the month?
Well, that's another test. That's what I'm saying. You know, the pressure is on now in every big game. Instead of getting into big games, relaxing and having the supporters right behind you, the supporters have been out anxious to see, are we going to finish second or third?
Okay, you can give us your thoughts on that at Peter and Ruffy on Twitter and facebook.com/Peter and Ruffy. There's more after the break. Welcome back to Peter and Ruffy's Football Show. Alan Ruff is alongside me, Peter Martin. One of the other headlines that we mentioned, Ruffy, was of course the SPFL have confirmed there will be a 50-50 split in the ticket allocation for Celtic and Aberdeen fans, which I think is only right and fair.
Yep, I think quite rightly so. I think the Aberdeen supporters have been very impressive all year. You know, not just in the cup games, but in league away games as well. They've took support in great numbers to a lot of the grounds, even midweek games. So I think it's a pat on the back for them as well. You know, I think there was about 20,000 of them turned up at the weekend there. So I think they really justify the 50% split.
Yep, absolutely. And of course, Aberdeen are in action tonight at Hamilton Accies. Here's how the fixtures look over the next day, because tonight it's Hamilton against Aberdeen. Then it's Dundee, Partick, Kilmarnock, Hearts, Motherwell, Inverness. Rangers, of course, we've been talking about at home to St Johnstone, and Celtic face a trip up to Dingwall to take on Ross County. Just on that point, Hamilton against Aberdeen. Aberdeen have put a good consistent run together, but Hamilton, it's going to be tough for them, but Martin Canning is adamant that they are in a false position.
Yeah, like all the teams down at the bottom, you know, the managers are always going to say that. You're going to look at, you know, maybe games that could have went your way that didn't. But I think tonight Aberdeen will know that they'll get a game out of Hamilton. Hamilton will be firing, you know, particularly at home. They'll be trying to obviously knock them off their peg. But I think Aberdeen, with the win at the weekend, they'll be really confident in going there and getting a comfortable win.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it, Ruffy. I'm going to go to that game because I'm really looking forward to seeing James Maddison. Of course, I think a number of Aberdeen players are hoping that he can extend his loan stay beyond January. Yeah,
he's been impressive in the league games. Had a quiet game at the weekend there, but that's to expect. He's still a young lad. He's only, I think he's 19 years of age, but they expect a lot from him. And I think he could be one of their main players tonight.
Yep, of course, I did mention to you the game tomorrow night, which I think is crucial. It is massive. Dundee against Partick Thistle. Here's what Alan Archibald had to say when the obvious point that you've been highlighting on Saturday. Thistle just can't hold on to a lead.
Individual errors it's been, which has been frustrating. Saturday's, you give Ross County a bit of credit. Yeah, they pushed 5 or 6 bodies forward and started to cheat a little bit, but I thought we dealt with that fine, and it was just individual errors, and players know that. We don't annihilate them for it, but they're well aware of that, and they let themselves down. But we do it collectively as a group, and it's just been somebody different every week that's maybe made an error for a late goal, and we've got to cut them out because our overall defensive shape on Saturday and in previous games, except the Hamilton game, has been very good.
Yeah, those Thistle need to try and hold on to a lead if they get one. Dundee haven't won a league game in 9. Paul McGowan says it's the players' fault. They should be looking at Paul Hartley. Hartley's been proactive. He's brought in Haber, hoping that Marcus Haber can somehow get the goals that they require.
Well, you're looking at two teams that can't win a game comfortably. You know, they can't get 9 out of 10 2 goals, never mind 3 goals. So it's always going to be very, very tight. But I think, as we said at the weekend, I think if Alan was to look at the games this year that they lost late on, they could be sitting 5th, 6th in the league, you know, if they'd just seen out the games quite comfortably. But that again is just a wee bit of lack of experience. They've got the young lad in there who got injured, who's going to learn, you know, a lot of experience playing in the Premier League, and he'll get better and better. But it will be an interesting one to score tomorrow night.
Yep, and the Jambos are at Kilmarnock. I'm still tipping them for 2nd place finish this season, Ruffy. Robbie Nielsen says that he thinks they've got the potential to rival Celtic one day, but what he's calling on is the same type of consistency that Aberdeen are showing to try and make sure that they're up there contesting 2nd or 3rd place.
Yeah, I think Hearts are going to be one of these sides that are going to make it. If you're going to get 3 points off of them, you're going to have to work extra hard for it. I think they're a good workmanlike side. You know, they know how to play good football, but they actually know how to dig in as well, and they've got goal scorers in their team So yeah, I think they'll have a good season this year.
Yeah, there's a number of youngsters that everybody's tipping for Scotland call-ups. I mean, John Souttar, I'm going to be looking forward to catching him over the next few weeks just to see if all the hype around him, a number of players are suggesting he could get a Scotland call-up, and of course some are suggesting that in the future Chris Cadden won't be too far away with that. Mark McGee's been talking about him because of course Motherwell are going to take on Inverness Cally Thistle tomorrow, and he's been talking about how some of the younger players coming through can take a lead out of Chris Cadden and what he's been doing.
He personally felt that Chris Cadden, maybe it's stretching a bit to say he was the best player in the park, because I thought Tierney was terrific, but I don't think there were really many that were better than Cadden on the day at Parkhead. And he's a young player that's been in the team now since last Christmas really, and has come on leaps and bounds, and that's what we're trying to do with Hastie and McLean and Ferguson and McMillan, so developing players more than anything.
Yeah, Cadden, I think Steve McManus mentioned to us that he's been working out in the gym, he's been building up his muscle, he's been really putting the effort in, and of course it seems to be reaping rewards, the managers praising him. Yeah,
if one team more than anybody else, it's Motherwell for bringing young players in, and we were listening to Stephen and he's saying there's 2 or 3 players even still in the under-20s ready to break through, so that can be good for Mark McGee. They've always had a good reputation for bringing young players through, and if they can go into the first team and hold the first team place down, I don't think they'll struggle again this year. I think they've got far too many young players coming through.
Yeah, interestingly enough, Mark did highlight the fact that he's maybe not a fan of this kind of a stop-start situation that Motherwell find themselves in. No sooner do you get a wee run going and then all of a sudden there's a stop. If it's for internationals, for League Cups, next minute it'll be the January break for the winter as well. And he was talking about how that can affect players, especially his goal scorer Louis Moult.
Only come back from injury, and I think the thing about Moulty was that he came back that day and he scored 4 goals, and I think that kind of painted a false picture exactly where he was in terms of his recovery and getting back, because I don't think he's got back to full sharpness yet. And I think he's one that suffered from what we were talking about there, about these breaks. He could have done with 10 games in quick succession, and he's not been able to get that. So it's been a little bit stop for him.
Yeah, I mean, clubs have to obviously, stick to this schedule. This is why we've got quite a full card over the next 24 hours. And then, of course, the January transfer window. We can't please ourselves, Ruffy. No. 1 minute we want a break, next minute we don't. Then somebody moans about the financial implications of it. Then others moan about maybe, players and teams like to get a bit of momentum.
Yeah, as far as Mark McGee is concerned, they had a striker that was out for a long, long while. So, everybody keeps talking about match fitness, and if you're not playing games, you're just playing wee bounce games, and that doesn't help anybody. And particularly with him coming in and scoring their 4 goals, he would have wanted to have been playing week in, week out. But I'm sure they'll get back into their stride with these games coming up.
Yep, and of course, Celtic up at Dingwall to take on Ross County. They're all on a high. Everybody's talking about Moussa Dembele. It was an audacious flick to get the winner against Rangers. Even Zinedine Zidane is quoted, Ruffy, talking about Moussa Dembele, saying if he's sensible, a couple of years at Celtic will do him the world of good to go on and become a top striker.
Yeah, I think it's very important, that players who are thrown into the limelight at that age are well looked after, and I think he will be at Celtic. He'll be well advised. I think the best advice he got was to go to Celtic initially, so it just remains to be seen what kind of clubs are looking at and what kind of money we're talking about.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a long way to go. I think it's early days. We're a great country for elevating people, and then when they get to a certain level and it doesn't work out, it just needs a bit of time. Okay, I'm going to get your thoughts, Ruffy, on a couple of things before we finish. Of course, all the games that are on tomorrow, including, of course, a couple of tasty ones in the English League Cup. Liverpool Spurs tonight, but Man United against Man City. Only in that country would... they're now comparing David Moyes' record with Jose Mourinho, and he seems to be under a bit of pressure. I'm gobsmacked by it.
Yeah, he's fortunately for Jose, he never shows the pressure. He just sort of strolls about, even at the press conferences as well. He just sits there and laps it all up. But he's certainly got a massive CV behind him. But like anybody else, fans are slow in getting behind you if you don't win important games.
Who's going to win it, Man United or Man City?
with Jose there, probably Man United.
Okay, and the last thing I'm going to get your thoughts on, of course, the Ballon d'Or. I'm not going to go through all the names on it, Ruffy, because right now I think there's something like 20 odd names in it. Nice to see Jamie Vardy in it though, because of that wonderful season last season. He's been recognised. Nice to be nominated. I don't think he's going to win it. The favourite is Ronaldo. Can you see anybody stopping him?
Well, I'm a wee bit biased. I think with the time he's had in the game, and what he's done in the game, I'm going to go for Buffon. I think he's had a fantastic career, and this would just climax at the end of his career. I think he's been fantastic. I think he proved in that last game that the saves he had were absolutely fantastic. I'd like to see a goalkeeper getting it.
Yeah, well, there's not a catch chance in hell of Buffon winning. I think we all know that. Our producer's raging because he didn't even have time to get a photograph of Buffon because he didn't even think Ruffy was going to mention that. That's why we had Ronaldo up. We thought, there's the favourite, he's going to win it. But Ruffy thinks a goalkeeper will win it. I can hear so many strikers saying, a goalie winning the Ballon d'Or? Are you serious? Thanks, Ruffy. Good night.